He's a favorite. Crowd loves him. Better lighting on you, Walsh.
Yeah, no, I took all your crowd and I got one of these little ring lights.
Nice. Oh boy, you're really getting into the 21st century. All right, this is a setup. This is a setup.
I'm ready for my close-up. Hey, also,
yes.
I love Todd Myers, but that quote's from H.L. Mencken.
Oh, I know. He stole it from Mencken. There's no such thing as an original idea. Okay, this is known in the media business as a setup. Are you ready for this, Walsh?
All right, I'll try.
This is like on six. This is on six. They do this on 60 Minutes. Representative Walsh, here's something you said about Ferguson back in January.
There is going to be a window of opportunity for the incoming governor to do different and to really try to negotiate across the aisle and in good faith and try to build bipartisan coalitions on budgets and law. And I hope we're able to have a bit of a honeymoon with the new administration. Watch that wealth tax. As I've said, that wealth tax is a dumb idea. It would be an easy thing for the new governor to say, even my own supporters are telling me that's a dumb idea. I'm not going to make that one a priority. I'm going to focus on other issues. And if the new governor says that, that will be a hopeful sign for the kind of good government, bipartisan agreement you're talking about.
Right.
I suspect the new governor is going to wash his hands of it and walk away, and that'll be a hopeful sign.
There you go. How about that? Hey, listen, he gave a press conference, and he basically said the wealth tax is out, not going to do that, and I'm rejecting the budget that's being presented by both the representatives and the senators. I don't like either one of them. So where are we now, Mr. Walsh?
Well, he's sending out good signals. So credit to Ferguson. I mean, it could be worse. He had a little bit of a weasel room that he left in his statement yesterday in his press conference, where he pretty much said everything you and I discussed back then. But he did leave a little wiggle room. He said that he might support the wealth tax if it were shrunk down to kind of a trial run. And that doesn't change anything. That doesn't change anything in what a dumb idea it is. Just because it's smaller doesn't make it less dumb. In some ways, making it smaller would make it even more dumb. So whatever. But I don't want to focus on the loophole or the wiggle room. Let's focus on the main thing he said was he's not going to support it, and that's good.
Yes.
The leftists in Olympia are claiming that this wealth tax. So remember, what the wealth tax is it's an expansion. It's not even a new tax. It's an expansion of the state's capital gains tax. I almost said capital gains income because that's what it really is, except the state Supreme Court says it's not.
Right.
So it's an excise tax. The capital gains tax at the state level here, the courts have said is an excise tax. That means it's a tax on a transaction. Okay, fine. The dumb part of this wealth tax is mechanically it's an expansion of that capital gains tax to investments you haven't sold yet. So the state Supreme Court's justification of this scud is that, well, it's a transaction tax. It's not an income tax. But now they're going to apply it to things where there's been no transaction.
No transaction,
what?
Right. Yeah. But the governor also said that it would be very hard to administer. He also thinks that it might be challenged immediately in court, which
might be. Okay.
Okay. So that aside, the wealth tax goes, put that off to the side. The rest of what the governor said, because I think on one point, I don't have you on, I don't know if we found it or not, but I asked you on a scale of 0 to 50, where are you in trusting the governor and what he says? I forget what your number was on that. But so were you happy with the things? Are we getting a better idea of how Ferguson wants to govern the state of Washington?
Yes, to your second question,
okay.
And not quite happy to your first question.
I know.
Yeah, we are getting a better idea. Here's the significant difference between Ferguson as governor and the predecessor, whatever his name was. The last guy was a zero when it came to anything involving heavy negotiation. The last guy cared about one thing. He cared about the stupid green future mumbo jumbo. And that's all he cared about. He didn't care about paying for roads and bridges. He didn't care about schools. He didn't care about cops. He didn't care about anything. So when it came to these budget negotiations, he was a complete wet noodle. I mean, he was a zero. He was nothing. He didn't have anything good to add. He didn't have any particular opinion. And what we're seeing with Ferguson, and this is not a surprise, is he's a smarter guy than that. And he does have some opinions about the budgets and roads and bridges and schools and cops and all the things. And so he's trying to assert himself more into the negotiations than the previous governor ever did. And so a lot of his press conference yesterday, where he said he didn't like the wealth tax and wasn't going to support it, maybe, and then he talked about some other, remember, it's kind of a mumbo jumbo. The budgets, which are how we spend the money, are separate of the tax policy bills, which are how we soak taxpayers for the money. Oh. So there are different sets of bills. What we're dealing with right now is the spend the money part. We haven't even gotten to the tax the money part yet. That comes kind of next week and the last few weeks of the session. So Ferguson is inserting himself into the negotiations. And I mean, I may not like everything the guy stands for, but it is good for the office of the governor that someone's in there and basically gives a darn and wants to be part of the negotiation. That ultimately is healthy, even though I don't think I'm going to like a lot of the things that this governor in particular wants.
When the Republicans have come up with a budget that does not increase taxes at all, has that been delivered to Ferguson? Has he seen it? What does he think of it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ferguson has met with the leaders of the legislative caucuses from all sides. So, and that's also an improvement over what the last guy did. So, I mean, if anything, I'm counseling some of my colleagues not to fall in love too fast. They need to be careful when they deal with this governor. I mean, he is not a fiscal conservative. I mean, he's good on this point of the wealth tax, but I'm as concerned or more concerned, really, John, about property taxes. That's the mess right now. And those aren't just a proposed expansion. I mean, we've got a crisis and a mess with our property taxes that are in place right now. And the left in Olympia, they want to make it worse. I mean, it's nuts. So I want to hear where the governor is on property taxes. Is he also going to take a rational line on what we're doing with property taxes, or is he going to, give the left what it wants on that one? And that'll be crushing.
I told Representative Defoe from the 15th, I said, hey, between you and me, because no one's listening, let him throw that property tax out there. Let everybody experience it. And then people will wake up and stop voting for the straight D's and just maybe start to give some people, the Republicans, a shot to govern. I said, how about that? Just let them experience it. Go ahead, 4%, 8%, 7% property tax. Just really rip people off hard on property. And then maybe people will go, well, I'm not going to vote for the straight D down the line because everybody votes that way, King County and the other areas that dominate. And let them have it. Here you go. Worst case scenario, now you go. These are the guys you voted for. Now your property tax is 7%. This is because these are the people you put in office.
Part of me, the political mind in me wants that. Yes, that the question is how much is it going to take of screwing up things here in Olympia for people to finally start opening their minds up on how they vote? That's a good question. And yeah, it's like the kid with you burn the hand on the stove.
Yeah.
As a parent, you never want your kid to burn his hand on the stove, but then you realize, well, he's got to do it once, so he figures out stoves are hot and he stops doing that. So we're kind of in that place.
No, I think the Democrats at that point would outlaw stoves.
Right, exactly. And hands, whatever. I don't want the people to suffer. People will suffer if the current proposals on increasing the rate of increase on property taxes actually passes. This would be devastating to homeowners. It would be devastating to renters. It's going to drive up rents higher. But you have a point. I mean, maybe they need to burn their hand on the tax policy stove here, and then they'll figure out that they shouldn't be electing these silly people into office who just turn around and screw them. I mean, It's maybe that's what it is. But John, there's so much collateral damage. And
Yes.
my role as a public servant and a lawmaker here is I got to try to minimize that kind of damage.
Taxes. I was going to play a cut. I'm going to get Joe to find this. This is one of the representatives the other day, and I don't know if you heard it or not, if you were on the floor when she made the impassioned speech, that it's important for us to pay taxes because really what it is, it's about hope.
Oh, no, joy.
Joy.
Yes.
Joy. Have you heard this? Were you there for this?
Yeah, I was there for this. So people are batting around this word joy.
Oh, yeah, let me play the cut, and then you get a chance to respond. Hold on there, Representative.
All right.
Here's the cut.
When I think about what taxes pay for, people find joy in having a well-funded public school. They find joy in having services at the local, county, and city levels that work, having infrastructure that is moving them from point A to point B. They find joy in having available health care. So I just take umbrage with the fact that we're taxing joy. We're actually taxing things that people want more of and want more sustainability in.
We're giving them joy.
Look, this is the problem when politicians talk to marketers too much, and they cling on to these words that they think, the consultants cook up, that if you talk about joy, it's going to make you seem like you're, I don't know, whatever, you're happy or you're defending people. Now, this thing with joy, remember, this started with Kamala Harris.
Yes.
That was a big part of her super successful presidential campaign. Where they were talking about how she was full of joy. She was a joyful person. And so some people have clung on to this idea of joy, talk about joy. Look, tax policy is not about joy, John. Tax policy is the political, spinach and Brussels sprouts. You got to figure out the way to raise the money through taxes for the government so that it can deliver the services that are essential, yeah. But what is the lowest, what is the minimal amount that we need to tax people in order to maintain roads and bridges, keep our schools competitive, which they're not currently, and pay for enough cops to keep neighborhoods safe. The essential purposes of government we want to fund. And look, I'll go farther. As a conservative, fiscal conservative Republican, I want to make sure Social Security is safe and Medicare is safe and Apple Health is safe. I don't want it to get mucked with and messed around with. And there's a lot of fear-mongering going on, including on the floor of the legislature and out in the media, that, the Trump administration is, cutting Social Security. That is not true. What they're trying to do is cut the fat, cut the overhead, cut the bureaucracy down so that the agencies can deliver the benefits. That can be a Social Security check. That can be a Apple Health card, for health insurance that doctors will actually accept. Right now, there's a big problem in this state that doctors and hospitals won't accept the Apple Health card because Apple Health stiffs doctors and hospitals. And so we got to fix Apple Health so that if it says it'll pay the doctor 60 cents on the dollar, it'll do it. Right now, they're stiffing doctors. And it also goes for roads and bridges and schools. We want to deliver the essential services of government without having a bunch of task forces that are studying the effects of extremism as a public health issue. Let's get rid of that junk.
Let's get you on record on this. I'll give you, anywhere from here to there. You can give her a little, give you a little wiggle room. How much, when this is all said and done, how much will taxes increase? And this is across the board, all taxes. How much taxes, not dollars, taxes will we be paying more, say this time next year when we sit down and talk again?
Well, I will not vote for any, but you're asking me to step aside from that and look at the scheme. All right, so the current Democrat proposals add about $15 billion in new taxes. I would estimate they will increase. They will do everything they can to increase taxes by $3 to $5 billion, and that's kind of their threshold. That's the least they'll take, and they will take it. I would guess that the bulk of that 3 to 5 million will be raised.
Million or billion?
Oh, I'm sorry, billion.
Right.
I would estimate that $3 to $5 billion will be raised primarily through increases to a couple of business taxes, the business and occupation B&O tax and payroll tax. They're enamored of this jumpstart tax that the city of Seattle did.
Mm-hmm.
That's an increase. That's a higher payroll tax. So it's some combination of B&O and the payroll tax increase. And then I think they're going to try to cram through this property tax increase, which is just barking dog crazy. But I think they're committed to doing it.
So then the cost to the average household?
It'll be, I mean, it's hard to say an average household,
right,
but it'll be in the $500 to $1,000 a year.
And will we get better services? Will we have joy?
No, we will. There will be no joy in Marysville, John.
Oh, boy.
No, nobody. I don't believe services will be improved substantially. In fact, we're in the midst of a major screw up on Apple Health.
Yeah.
Remember, Medicaid is a combination of federal and state, and we're really screwing up the state portion of it. And the left is screaming, "Oh, it's Trump, 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 Trump." No. Here in Washington State, the state is screwing up Medicaid at a faster rate than the feds are.
Well, that's a story for another time, Jim, because you know what they eventually want to do is they want to be able to have single payer. They don't want what they want is the government to provide all healthcare services for everybody.
That is correct.
That's what they ultimately want.
It's called the Cloward-Piven strategy.
Yeah.
You screw up essential services to justify more government. It's counterintuitive, but the left buys into it.
Right. That's what they think the best services will come when a quote unquote all healthcare is free. All right, Mr. Walsh, punch him out of here, Andrew. Let's get him out of here. He is. Get back to work. Get back there.
Yeah, I am.
Get back.
We trust Ferguson a little bit, but verify. Trust but verify.
Thank you, Ronald Reagan. All righty, let's go to Nate over there in the Beacon Plumbing Traffic.